Let me tell you something I learned early on. Your life does not rise to the level of your intentions. It falls to the level of your habits. You don't decide your future. You decide your habits, and your habits decide your future. That's the secret, that's the trap, and that's the opportunity. You see, everyone wants to be rich, but not everyone wants to become the kind of person wealth is attracted to, and that's the difference. Poor thinking says, if I could just make more money, my life would change. But rich thinking says, if I could just change my habits, my life would never be the same. I used to think money was the goal, until I realized money is the reward. It's what shows up when your daily disciplines align with long-term vision. Chasing money is like chasing your own shadow. You run faster, and it keeps running away. But build rich habits, suddenly the money starts chasing you. So today we're going to talk about something far more powerful than just income. We're going to talk about the architecture of your life, the habits you've built, the systems that run when you're not thinking, and we'll uncover why some people build wealth almost automatically while others struggle endlessly, and it all starts in the invisible world of daily decisions. Let me tell you something simple but profound. What you can see clearly, you can pursue confidently. What's vague will always stay out of reach. Now, most people, they've got hopes, dreams. They'll tell you, one day I'll be wealthy, or someday I want financial freedom. But let me ask you, what day is someday? Tuesday? July? Next decade? You see, wishes are fine for the dreamers. But if you want to build wealth, you need vision, clear, concrete, measurable vision. I learned this early. I used to say, I want to make more money. One day, my mentor handed me a coin and said, now you've made more. Is that what you meant? I laughed, but I got the point. Wealth doesn't respond to fuzzy desires. It responds to precision. So if you want the next 5 years to look very different than the last 5, it begins with you sitting down, taking out a piece of paper and writing exactly what you want to earn, exactly what you want to save, and exactly what streams of income you want coming in passive, active, residual. How much income per month would set you free? How much would you need invested to generate that passively? What's your current net worth? What should it be in 5 years? Not a guess. Numbers. Put it down. You see, when you get that kind of clarity, your mind goes to work. You don't wander anymore. You walk with intention. The average person avoids this because they're afraid to be held accountable to a vision. But without accountability, you'll drift. When I first wrote out my 5-year plan, it was a mess more questions than answers. But the act of writing forced me to think, and thinking is where change begins. I decided I wanted to earn a certain income each year. That led me to ask, what skill would I need to learn? Who would I need to meet? What opportunities should I stop saying no to? Suddenly, I wasn't hoping anymore, I was planning. You don't build wealth by accident, you build it by intention. Your vision is the architect's blueprint. Without it, you're swinging hammers in the dark. But when it's clear, I want to make $150,000 a year, save 20%, have $500,000 in assets, and build a passive stream of $2, zero month. You wake up differently. You start reading different books. You have different conversations. You say no to impulse spending because now you're chasing purpose, not pleasure. And let's not forget, the goal isn't just the number. The goal is who you must become to earn that number. The disciplines, the habits, the mindset, those are the real rewards. The money just follows. So set aside time this week. Go sit with yourself. Think, dream, write, get specific. Where do you want to be in 5 years? How much do you want saved, earned, invested? And most of all, why? What's the reason that will fuel your drive? Clarity is the first step to wealth. Without it, you're just spinning your wheels. With it, you're driving the vehicle of your future straight toward freedom. Let me share something I learned a long time ago. A short pencil is better than a long memory, especially when it comes to money. Most people live life without a notebook, and that's why they keep repeating the same mistakes. They forget what they learned, they overlook their progress, and they never get the full value of their experiences. But the wealthy, oh, they take notes. They write down what works and what doesn't. They document lessons from failure. They gather wisdom like gold and store it for later. That's the habit. That's the difference. I started keeping a journal when I was broke, not because I had great success to write about, but because I knew I had to start thinking like someone who would become successful. So I began capturing ideas, insights from books, quotes from mentors, habits I admired, financial goals, monthly income, expenses, even how I felt about money at different stages of my growth. And let me tell you, those journals became more valuable to me than any check I cashed in those early years. Every week I'd sit down and review what I had written. It didn't take long, just 15-20 minutes, but that little practice gave me a kind of financial self-awareness that most people never develop. I started to notice patterns. When I spent impulsively, what triggered it? How I felt when I made wise decisions? What kind of thinking helped me save and invest? I caught my mistakes earlier. I doubled down on my wins faster. You see, wealth is not just the money in the account, it's the thinking behind it. And that thinking gets sharper the more you review it. Don't let your best lessons slip by. If you hear a powerful quote on discipline, write it down. If you learn a tough lesson from a bad investment, capture it. If you meet someone who shifts your financial mindset, record what they said. A single sentence written at the right time can reroute your future. And don't just track knowledge, track your numbers too. Your income, your expenses, your savings rate, your goals. Progress written becomes progress visible, and visible progress creates momentum. It keeps you going when motivation wears thin. Some of the wealthiest people I've ever met could flip open a notebook and show you exactly when they made the shift that changed everything. It's not about having perfect records. It's about creating a habit of awareness and the habit of reviewing what you're learning. Because what you review, you remember. What you remember, you act on. And what you act on consistently, well, that's what becomes your results. So I'd encourage you, get a notebook. Doesn't have to be fancy. Just something that stays with you. Use it to build a relationship with your financial life. Track the journey. Record the wisdom. Learn from yourself. You don't need 1,000 breakthroughs, just a few good ones that you don't forget. If you want wealth to grow, make sure your mind grows with it and write it all down. When I first began to understand how money really worked, I was shocked at how little of it were actually taught. No one sat me down in school and said, "Here's how to become wealthy." They taught me how to earn a paycheck, sure, but no one taught me how to build wealth. And so, like many others, I had to start the journey of financial learning on my own. And where did I begin? Books. Good old-fashioned books. I made a habit early on, 1 book a month on wealth, finance, business, or personal development. Just one. That's 12 books a year. And when you compound that over a decade, it becomes 120 books. Now think about that. If you read 120 books on how wealthy people think, how money grows, how to invest, how to sell, how to lead, you really believe you'll think the same way about money 10 years from now as you do today? Of course not. You'll be a different person, a wiser person, a wealthier person, not just in money, but in mindset. You see, poverty starts in the mind before it ever shows up in the bank account. It's not just a lack of money, it's a lack of ideas, a lack of strategy, a lack of exposure to what's possible. And books solve that. They put you in the room with millionaires. They give you access to the ideas that change someone else's life and might just change yours. I remember reading Think and Grow Rich for the first time. It was like opening a door I didn't even know existed. Then I picked up The Richest Man in Babylon and The Millionaire Next Door. These weren't just stories, they were blueprints, strategies, philosophy, discipline in written form. Each one added a new layer to how I viewed work, income, investing, and success. And I didn't just read, I studied. I underlined. I made notes. I applied what I learned. If a book taught me a budgeting principle, I tried it that week. If it taught me to track my net worth, I started that night. And sure enough, over time, those small applications began to reshape how I lived. I no longer thought like someone hoping to get rich. I started thinking like someone preparing to be rich. It's a simple formula, but it works. Learn, apply, repeat. And the more you learn, the more you begin to spot opportunity where others see limits. You stop thinking in terms of hours, and paychecks and start thinking in terms of value, leverage, and freedom. So the question becomes, not can you read 12 books a year, but will you? Because the ones who do, they separate themselves. Not because they're lucky, but because they're learners. They upgrade their minds and as a result, upgrade their income. One idea can change your year. One principle can change your legacy. You don't need a shelf full of degrees. You need a mind full of wisdom. And the wealthiest minds are built one book at a time. When I first started making a little more money, I made the mistake so many make, I thought income alone would make me wealthy. I figured I'm earning more, so now I can spend more. And spend I did. A better car, fancier clothes, a few extra dinners out. It felt good at first, like I was finally making it. But soon I realized something was wrong. My bank account wasn't growing, and I had nothing to show for the increase in income except nicer receipts. That's when it hit me. It's not about what you earn. It's about what you keep. And more importantly, what you do with what you keep. Wealth doesn't come from spending more rate. It comes from managing better. That's why I learned to live on 70% of my income. Not because I was cheap, but because I wanted control. I wanted to be the master of my money, not its servant. When you learn to live on 70%, it forces discipline. It creates space to build. That extra 30%, that's your future right there. Out of that 30%, I recommend you divide it wisely. Put 10% toward active investing things that produce cash flow or appreciation, like real estate or index funds. Take another 10% and put it toward long-term savings, wealth preservation, or retirement. And the last 10%, that's for personal growth. That's for books, courses, coaching, or tools that increase your value in the marketplace. Because if you become more valuable, you'll eventually earn more. And when you earn more, you can still live on 70%, and that extra 30% becomes even more powerful. Let me tell you why this works. Most people, when their income increases, their lifestyle increases just as fast, sometimes faster. That's called lifestyle inflation. And it's the silent killer of financial momentum. You get a raise, you buy a bigger car, you get a bonus, you upgrade your vacation, the money comes in and then it's gone. That's not wealth building, that's treadmill living. You're running, but you're not moving forward. Living on 70% changes the game. It forces you to stay grounded. It teaches you the art of restraint. And here's the beautiful irony. The less you need, the more powerful you become. Because now you're not desperate for every dollar. Now you're playing offense, not defense. You have room to invest. You have capital to build with. You have resources to take a risk, to start a project, to say yes to an opportunity. And over time, those small percentages begin to work in your favor. Compound interest kicks in. Investments grow. Knowledge pays dividends. And suddenly you find yourself in a place most people never reach, not because you made more, but because you managed better. It's not flashy. It's not always easy, but it's the difference between chasing wealth and building it. So if you want to create a solid financial future, start with this. Cap your lifestyle at 70% and let the rest go to work for you. When I was young and broke, I thought debt was just a normal part of life. Credit cards, car loans, personal loans, it all seemed like the price of participating in modern society. I figured everyone has debt. It's just how things are. But then I learned the truth. Debt isn't neutral, it's a thief. It robs you of your future income. It changes your options. It slows down your ability to build wealth. And worst of all, it becomes a habit. You borrow, then you pay interest, then you borrow again. And before long, your income doesn't belong to you anymore, it belongs to the bank. You can't build lasting wealth while dragging a mountain of consumer debt behind you. Why? Because debt is a reverse wealth engine. Every dollar you pay in interest is a dollar that could have been invested, saved, or used to create opportunity. That's the real cost what you lose by not having access to your own income. And if you add up how much interest people pay over a decade, it's staggering. That's money that could have bought freedom, but instead it bought stress. Now, not all debt is created equal. I'm not talking about a well-leveraged mortgage or a strategic business loan. I'm talking about consumer debt credit cards, payday loans, personal loans for stuff that doesn't produce anything. If it doesn't create income, it's a liability. And liability should be cleared fast. So how do you do it? You start with a decision, no more excuses. You list out all your debts, smallest to largest. Then you build what I call a snowball plan. Pay minimums on everything except the smallest one. Attack that one with intensity cut expenses. Sell something. Work extra hours if you have to. Once that's gone, roll that payment into the next one. Momentum builds, confidence grows, and each paid off debt becomes a victory. Before long, you're no longer buried, you're climbing. Some folks say, well, I'll start once I make more money. But you don't wait for more income to fix a money habit. You fix the habit now. Because if you don't manage $1,000 wisely, you won't manage $10,000 wisely. The habit of eliminating debt, of telling your money where to go, that's the beginning of mastery. And mastery with money leads to freedom. I remember the first time I paid off a loan. It wasn't even a big one, but I felt 10 feet tall. Why? Because I wasn't just removing debt, I was reclaiming my future. Every time I cleared a balance, I got a little more control back, a little more peace, a little more power to choose. And eventually, when the debts were gone, I felt something I hadn't felt in years' margin. Space, the ability to dream again, to build again. So if you're serious about wealth, don't ignore the chains, cut them. Eliminate your consumer debt with urgency, because when the debt is gone, your income becomes a tool, not a trap. And that's when wealth starts to grow. When I first started earning a little more, I did what most people do. I got excited. I thought, finally, I can start investing, building, compounding. And yes, that's the right direction. But what I didn't realize was that the path to wealth isn't built on excitement. It's built on stability. Before you plant seeds, you have to prepare the ground. And that means one thing. Before you invest, before you build, before you expand, you need a cushion. You need a small wall of defense between you and life's unexpected turns. Because life doesn't ask for permission before it interrupts your plan. The car breaks down. A medical bill shows up. The job gets shaky. And if you don't have something set aside, you'll find yourself dipping into your wealth building accounts just to survive. That's why I tell people to start by saving $1,000. Not for investing, not for buying stocks, not for starting a business, but simply for emergencies. You need to buy yourself some peace of mind. Because without peace of mind, every opportunity feels like a threat. You can't focus on the long term when your mind is anxious about the short term. And that $1,000, though it may seem small, is the seed of confidence. Now, I've had folks say to me, but I can't even save $1,000 right now. And my response is simple. If you can't save $1,000, you're not ready for the next step. But you can find a way. Cut back on coffee, cancel a few subscriptions, sell something from the garage, work a Saturday shift. It's not the amount, it's the mindset. When you decide that your future matters more than momentary comforts, you'll find the money. And that decision made with intention will create the first muscle of wealth building, discipline. And don't overcomplicate it. Don't put that $1,000 in an investment account or tie it up in something hard to access. This is not your wealth fund. This is your life happens fund. Keep it somewhere safe but reachable like a savings account, separate from your everyday spending. And when an emergency does come, and it will, you won't panic. You won't go into debt. You'll reach for your cushion, handle the situation, and then refill it. This step also does something subtle but powerful. It teaches you that money is a tool, that it serves you, not the other way around. And when money begins to obey your decisions, instead of dragging you around emotionally, that's when you're in control. And that control, that's what opens the door to growth. I've seen people skip this step. go straight into investing, then pull out their money the first time they need to pay for a broken water heater. That's not wealth. Building that's survival with a fancy name. Real wealth requires stability, a strong foundation, a place where your future isn't constantly interrupted by today's drama. So before you think about multiplying money, start with protecting it. Set aside that first $1,000, not because it's the end, but because it's the beginning of responsible wealth. When people ask me, how do the wealthy stay consistent? I always tell them it's not about big leaps. It's about small, intentional disciplines practiced every day. That's the secret. Not luck, not hustle, not waiting for the stars to align. It's daily rhythm. It's ritual. You see, wealth is attracted to structure, not rigidity, but discipline. And when you build rituals around your money, your mind begins to align with your goals. You start living intentionally, not accidentally. Let me take you back to when I started taking my own finances seriously. I had the books, I had the goals, but I kept falling off course. One month I'd do great then, I'd drift, I'd get distracted. I realized I didn't have a rhythm. I wasn't revisiting my mission often enough. That's when I began building wealth rituals into my day. Small ones, easy to repeat, but powerful over time. It starts in the morning. First thing, I sit down with my coffee and I review my goals. Not just read them, feel them. Visualize the results. I look at my financial vision, my income goals, investment targets, my net worth benchmarks. I remind myself why I started. This is the compass. Without it, the day pulls you in every direction. With it, you're anchored. You remember that every action, every decision is either moving you closer or further from your vision. Then comes midday. This is where the income work happens. I block out 90 minutes non-negotiable. No distractions, no calls, no meetings. Just focused, productive, income-generating work. For me, this was the time I used to write, make calls, create new opportunities, or improve my offers. You'd be amazed at how much wealth is built in just 90 minutes of focused effort, done daily. Most people never build wealth because they spread their energy thin. But if you compress effort into focused blocks, you create momentum. And finally, the evening ritual. This is where reflection comes in. I take 10 minutes and log my financial activity. What did I earn today? What did I spend? What did I save? What did I learn? Some days, the log is light. Other days, it's full of insight. But every day I write. Why? Because what gets written gets remembered. What gets measured gets improved. And over time, this ritual creates awareness. And awareness is the beginning of mastery. Now let me be clear, this isn't about being perfect. It's about being intentional. Some days I miss the mark. Some weeks, life threw curveballs. But the rituals brought me back. They created a groove so that even when I slipped, I didn't fall far. That's the power of habit. I always say, success is not an event, it's a system. And if you build daily financial rituals that align with your long-term vision, wealth doesn't feel like a dream, it becomes a rhythm. You don't chase it. You live it. You become the kind of person wealth is drawn to. Not because of luck, but because of daily, deliberate structure. So if you want to stop drifting and start building, don't just write goals, ritualize them. Morning, midday, evening, simple, repeatable, and over time, unstoppable. When people ask me, where do I begin with wealth? I tell them begin with understanding. Not money, not hustle, understanding. Because money doesn't stay with the confused. It doesn't linger with the careless. It flows to the informed. And the truth is, your mind must grow faster than your bills, faster than your ambitions, and faster than your lifestyle otherwise. Your income will always be running to catch up with your ignorance. That's a tough truth, but a necessary one. Years ago, when I was broke and frustrated, someone asked me, how much time have you spent this week learning about money? I paused. The answer was embarrassing, none. I was working hard, yes, but not learning. I was chasing, not building. That's when I made the decision that changed my life. I committed to 30 minutes a day, not a marathon, Just 30 minutes. Every day I would study wealth, study investing, study human behavior, study markets, business models, the psychology of money, the strategies of the wealthy. I still remember the first book I read. It didn't give me instant wealth, but it gave me perspective. The second gave me strategy. The third, conviction. And before long, I wasn't just learning, I was transforming. You see, knowledge compounds just like money. Each lesson layered over the last until you start making decisions from a place of clarity, not confusion. I treated those 30 minutes like gold. I didn't wait for inspiration. I scheduled it. Morning before the world woke up. Lunchtime with a book in my lap. Evening with an audio course while I walked. I found the Timino because I had it, but because I made it. And that's the difference between those who wait for success and those who prepare for it. Most people think financial education is something formal. It's not. It's consistent exposure. Pick a topic. How do index funds work? What is cash flow in real estate? How does compound interest actually multiply? What are the habits of self-made millionaires? Then dig, read, listen, watch, take notes, reflect, apply, rinse, and repeat. The repetition rewires the mind. And here's the thing, when you learn daily, your standards change. You stop making emotional money decisions. You stop falling for scams. You start spotting opportunities. You start speaking a different language, the language of value, of long-term thinking, of leverage and multiplication. I've met people who've earned for decades but never learned for one. They had income but no insight, assets but no understanding. They were always one mistake away from disaster. But those who study, even with less income, always seem to find a way forward. Why? Because education expands possibilities. It widens the road to wealth. So my challenge to you is simple. 30 minutes a day. Guard it. Protect it. Make it sacred. Don't skip it. Don't wait until you're ready. Start with what you have, where you are. Because wealth isn't just about making more, it's about becoming more. And you become more by feeding your mind before you feed your wallet. The goal isn't just to earn more money, it's to become the kind of person who knows what to do with it once it arrives. There's a simple truth about wealth that most people overlook. Your income is directly tied to the value you bring to the marketplace. And the quickest way to increase that value is by mastering one high-income skill. Not 10 skills scattered all over, but one skill so well honed that it becomes your signature, your edge, your ticket to higher earnings. When I first started out, I was juggling many things, trying to be good at everything, but not great at anything. I quickly realized that the real breakthrough would come when I focused my energy on developing one skill that could multiply my income and open doors. For me, it was learning the art of communication and leadership. That one focus changed my life. It allowed me to sell ideas, influence people, and create opportunities where none seemed to exist. Think about it. The world rewards value, not effort. You might work 12 hours a day, but if you're not growing your value, your income stays capped. But master one skill that's in demand, and suddenly, doors open to consulting gigs, business ventures, promotions, or even investments you understand better because of that skill. Sales, marketing, leadership, branding, investing, these are skills that the wealthy rely on time and again. Why? Because they allow you to solve problems that people are willing to pay for. When you master sales, you're no longer selling a product, you're selling solutions, trust, and value. When you master leadership, you attract people, resources, and opportunities to your cause. When you master investing, you make money work for you instead of working for money. But mastering a skill isn't a weekend project or a quick online course. It takes daily discipline, study, and practice. The best approach is to dedicate at least 30 minutes a day, every day, to honing your chosen skill. Read books, watch tutorials, attend seminars, practice in real situations. Be a student of your craft. One of my favorite sayings is, learn to work harder on yourself than you do on your job. When you invest in your skills, You're investing in your future income. And that's the real secret of wealth. It's not just about what you make today, it's about how much you can increase your value tomorrow. So, pick one skill today. Commit to learning it with intention and discipline. Over time, this mastery will not only shift your income, but change your life. Your skill becomes your currency, and with currency, you create wealth. As we come to the close of this conversation, remember this: wealth is not just about numbers in a bank account. It's about the mindset you cultivate, the habits you build, and the value you create. The difference between staying stuck and breaking free lies in your daily choices. Are you ready to stop chasing money and start building lasting wealth? It begins with shifting your thinking, investing in yourself, and committing to consistent growth. Don't wait for the perfect moment or the perfect opportunity. Those are illusions that keep many trapped. Start now. Write down your financial vision. Choose the skill that will elevate your income. Create a plan that turns small wins into a legacy. And surround yourself with mentors and knowledge that stretch your mind. Wealth is a journey, not a lottery. It rewards patience, discipline, and clarity. So take control of your financial future by taking control of your thoughts and actions today. The path is clear. The choice is yours. Commit to the shift. Embrace the process. And watch how your income and your life transform beyond what you once believed possible. The first step begins right now.